On from that, and obviously you're talking very positively about, Walter Smith and Artie Knox. So how did you end up leaving then? Because it comes as a shock to us as ever. I know there's noise, but there's always noise for our players and good players because we weren't winning stuff. And you were obviously one of our own. You were one who I think the fans loved that you local lad, big Evertonian, hell of a player, centre back. Smallish for a centre back, but brilliant ball player. England were looking, and no, you did make your debut for England. For us, you were going to be our captain. That was like the future, and then all of a sudden, this noise gets bigger and bigger. And from a fan perspective, and I was working at Everton at the time, you were painted as the bad guy. It was like, he must want out, he won't sign, doesn't want to stay. I remember your brother was working at ticket office, and your brother used to come down and get tickets and be like, what's happening? And he's like, he doesn't want to go. And like, everywhere, everything is telling us he wants to leave. So what happened?
Well, for myself, it wasn't frustrating because nothing was happening. Yeah. But me dad, and like my dad's 1 of 9, and they're all Blues, all season ticket holders, and they used to get phone calls, what's happening? And my dad was frustrated with the press. Yeah. There was a lot of leaks. A lot of leaks were happening. I still get stick now in the park end a few weeks ago. A lad walked over to me and said something about what? And he went, laughing on the coach. I'm going, what are you on about? So there was a lot of stuff that I know happened on the other side of the park, happened and never got leaked out. That leak started happening, and I don't know where from.
Right, okay.
And the only thing that happened was from inside our changing room or inside our bus. So the laughing on the bus thing, that got blown up like a massive big story. That I'm happy that I don't think we got beat. I think to get beat or we draw against Bristol City. It was a poor result, poor performance. And then the way that happened, we got on the coach. Alan Myers was there. He was giving the food out. Archie shouted, "No one's allowed food." We go, here we go. And I was normally sitting at the back. Normally play cards with the boys at the back. Relax, have a game of cards, and have a laugh and a banter, whatever. Obviously the result happened the way it was. Didn't want to sit at the back. Sat at the front next to the staff, next to Jimmy Comer. And me and Donny just sitting there, just sitting there talking. Disappointed what's gone on. And then Jimmy starts telling a story about X, Y, and Z in school, and you have a little giggle, and then that's it. The Archie Knox comes out, and he comes over, rants at raves. You go, well, it's a bit harsh, but you take it. I think as the journey went on, I think I pulled him, and he's like, yeah, don't worry about it, whatever. Yeah. Because he knew the back of the bus is still carrying on as normal, So they it's that stuff. They want to unwind that way, fine. But off on that bus, there was only half the squad on the bus. Half the players stayed down there to go to London or whatever, do it off the next day. So by the time you get home, and back then it was all. It was in the newspaper by the next day that Michael Ball's laughing on the bus after the result. So I'm going, well, who's leaked that? Yeah. So it's only going to be people on this bus who've done that. Then we had the famous one of the New Year when apparently never turned up for training. When I've had one before then. I had a party, I had the christening, and the neighbours knocked Walter Smith to say I had a party, pulled me in. I said, my son's christening, what are you on about? I said, you're having a party, a bit loud, but it wasn't till after clock, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So you're getting it, but Walter didn't seem that bothered as long as I was performing. So as long as you're training hard, working hard, which I still was. But these leaks started happening, and I didn't really care. Because I thought that's what it is. It'll go away. It's I think Duncan used to say, it's like fish and chip paper. It'll disappear. But it just seemed to stick for some reason. So the famous one was, I think it was New Year's Eve. I was a chest infection. I was off for all that week. I did say, look, I could be in. If I wake up, I'm up. I'll be in. Didn't phone in. Didn't feel I had to. They knew where I was. So that was basically it. So I got a phone call to be in the next morning. Dunny, me, Richie got in early doors, and there's Franny and Hutch already in there at like 7:30 in the morning. And you're thinking, what are you doing here? And they had a bit of a tussle in town. They had a bit of an incident. which Walter wasn't too happy with. But Walter wasn't in the day before. He's only found out there's basically 4 of us aren't in training.
Yeah.
And I think they turned up late to training because they're in a situation. So we were like, yeah, what's going on here? So I think all that blew up.
Yeah.
I think Richard Dunn was on the front page of an Irish newspaper with us hanging off each limb, with the bad boys of the group.
Yeah.
And Walter, he had to do something. He said, we've got to gain someone. Obviously, you can't play. You're not playing. So the papers sort of blew that up again. But again, it was sort of put to us differently than what was leaked in the media. Because then my dad's phoning me, then asking me what's going on. So you're explaining. He goes, well, why is it in the Echo? Why is it? It's all being blown up out of proportion, and it looked bad on that. But with the truth inside, the manager wasn't really that bothered. He just said, right, you can go home, and then when you come back in again, he said, well, it's the upstairs want to suspend you. I was like, what? Suspend me for what? So the club wanted to suspend us and fine us, and then what made it probably worse was our legal firm or our agents at the time probably thought they should step in, protect us, but it was a little bit too late, maybe. And maybe down to us being young, we trusted his opinion. Back then, you can't be suspended and fined. It's illegal to do so. Right. So he wanted to tell the club where to go, but then that found its way into the paper. So then it was only when it come down and said, look, just let's leave it. What we're going to get out of it, just let it go. Yeah. And that was all the nastiness. But when the football kicked back in again, you're back in the team, you're playing, and everything's fine. I was playing my best football. I think there was 12 or 13 supporters clubs. So I got player of the season, young and senior, for everyone but one. Blue Kipper at the time. You remember that? Blue Kipper. They wanted to give me the award and said, look, every time we give someone this award, they leave. The past 2, it hasn't been good. And I was like, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. We're talking contracts. But there was no rush. I had 2 years left. There was nothing really to be talking about. It was only because of paper talk, the Man United thing. There was obviously the Liverpool thing. There was a lot of talk, but no one spoke to me about it. Walter Smith never pulled me in about X, Y, or Z. It was just the only time he's put his arm around me was about a lot of noise about Alex Ferguson, and he goes, look, me and Alex are very close, so look, there's nothing in that. You just concentrate and do what you're doing. I said, well, I'm staying here anyway. That's it. The summer, the season finished. I went on holiday with all my mates. Got a phone call. Trevor Stephen was my agent at the time. So, and then Trevor phoned me and said, look, the club want you in on Wednesday. Sort of contract. So I had a good celebration with the lads. I was just going to sign a new contract with the boys. Flew home Andy. Got to Goodison, the park end reception, and I was sitting there. There's no one there. And then a girl come out and said, we've had a message off the board. They've changed their mind. So that left me a little bit puzzled. Didn't really understand why, because no one's told me. Trevor couldn't get an answer, and it was basically down to the board have changed their mind of the situation. Which again, I wasn't really obviously disappointed, but thinking, I've got an 18 months, 2 years left, so I don't really get it. You know what I mean? As soon as I get back playing, I'll be fine. But then pre-season starts, and then that's when you're not wanted. Right. That's when I was again doing a little bit of rehab with my knee. Walter pulled me out of England under 21's Toulon tournament. Said, look, you need the rest. Probably had to speak to the FA a lot because they weren't happy with that situation. No. And that's something you want to be a part of, but I get it. I'm thinking, well, everything's the most important thing to me. If I get these 3 weeks rest, which was massive at the time, it's only going to benefit me. Come back, not involved in the first team, you're training individually. Then you think after 3 days I should be involved, but then I wasn't involved. And that's when you just knew. There was no meetings with Walter stopped. Normally it was always once or twice a week, come to my office, boy, and there was nothing. And that was it. That was all it was. He was speaking to the players. They didn't understand it. We brought a lot of Scottish lads down as well, and just they didn't really get what was going on. And I don't know whether it was Walter's opinion. You hear, I've heard different stories since. All I got told, if you stay here, lad, you're going to be, you're going to rot in the reserves. And I had the World Cup, my eyes set on the World Cup in 2002, and that's what everything was all going on. He knew that. So that was disappointing, but he never said that to me. It was more to maybe Trevor Steven, to other people in and about this, is what, he wanted to move players on. He wanted to, and I felt I was the one getting picked on for this. And we've seen Walter in the past of getting rid of a lot of youth. I think back then, the youth team basically got dismantled. Everyone got moved on for quite a bit of money, and that should have been a good youth team to given an opportunity. And unfortunately, that never happened. So I was probably the last one, sort of still hanging around. And they obviously, for one reason or another, didn't want me to be there. But again, I was just there for the fight. I've been in a situation a little bit, not forced out as much as that one. The Walter, that I thought, well, if I get back playing, I'll be back in, and I'll prove them wrong, and in a way outlast them. I'll be here longer than you. That was my attitude. Then the phone calls start happening then, because it's out there, the media's out there. Come and speak to me, Steve McPartland at Middlesbrough. And then Trevor was living in Scotland. He said, come up here for the weekend. You're off for the weekend. Come up and say, just come up, get away from it all. Because the press was getting really, it wasn't say difficult, but it was just about a lot of nothing. Because no one spoke to me, so I'm going, well, there's nothing there. So it's all untrue. The rumours of me signing for X, Y, and Z were all untrue. So there's nothing. All it is just I haven't signed a new contract, and that was down to them pulling it away from me. It was that was it. So again, my attitude is go up there, be fine, and then on the way up to Scotland, Trevor said, "Don't tell anyone, but the Rangers want to speak to you." I was like, right, okay. He said, while you're up here, be nice, respectful, go up, let's speak to them. And then we met at a service station, and Trevor turned up like someone from Men in Black, or black suit, black leather. I'm thinking, trying to be hiding out the way here, and got the opportunity to meet Rangers. Not signing, I'm just being respectful. David Murray, learnt a lot about him. I didn't know, he lost his legs at a young age, and he owned Man United and Rangers at the time, and he was telling me basically just doing a sales job, doing a sales pitch, and where Rangers want to be, and basically you start thinking, oh dear. Is this happening? Is what's happened with the clubs? And he went, they've agreed. I said, they've agreed 3. I went, who's the 3? And it was Middlesbrough, Liverpool and Rangers. And that was sort of a massive shock. I walked out of the boardroom then, because it was a bit like the first time I've heard that. Where everyone else has. When everyone else has been in the press and I've been denying it all, it's the first time it's come across it. So Rangers said, well, because of our connection with Walter, we're going to push this through. The manager wants you. Arthur Newman's the left back. He's not going to see the future, blah, blah, blah. And Champions League. Steve McPartland, I knew of him from England. They were spending a lot of money to bring good players into Middlesbrough at the time. But there was no way I was playing against Everton. I just could not get my head round playing Everton at that age.
Liverpool?
Well, that was never going to happen. It was never going to happen. And I think they knew that. I think Everton knew that. I think they knew that was never going to be, because I think they offered more money than the rest. But I think Everton were trying to up the price from Rangers, and I think we'll probably find out why 2 balloons and a goldfish. I think it ended up going for in the end. But so that was leaving Rangers. It was sort of wow. Yes, I verbally agreed to sign. Had to come back to Belfield, and it was sort of, I was in probably a bit of a daze for a long time. Drove back to Belfield, had to get me stuff, had to pick up my boots, say your goodbyes, tearful. But then spoke to Alex Lennon, David Weir, Toffee, Gaza, Jimmy Bellies even, just about before the sign on that dotted line, what's it all about? And they, John Collins, they had all great things to say. Howard Wilkinson was the England manager at the time, under 21s. He said it's going to develop me. He said you've been sort of stagnant, you've been brilliant defensively, but you've lost your defensive side of your game. He said being at a club like Rangers will bring that on, winning week in, week out, playing in Champions League will bring it on. So it's sort of ticking the boxes a little bit. But you're just thinking, will he change their mind now?
Yeah.
Will he offer me that contract again? Because definitely would have just signed it.
Yeah.
And it just never happened. And signing for Rangers, both sides, medical went on for over 2.5 weeks.
To watch the rest of this Inside the Game podcast, head over to the More Than the Game channel or click the video that's on screen now.